Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. We are Christpoint Church. We are one church in two locations, and we hope that you enjoy today's sermon by my lead pastor, Steve Qualls. And also come check us out. We are on the square in Sparta, Tennessee, also in Smithville, 614 Murphy Street, right behind Bumpers. We hope that you are encouraged by today's word, and we want to say, welcome home.
Welcome home. Welcome home, welcome home. Insignificant battles. Last week, and here's the thing. I just can't get enough of the book of Joshua. I always kind of revert back to it. I just love it. So the thing is we've been diving into it, but we've got so much that we can't even cover. So we're hitting the battles. So we're just going straight to the battles. Last week was Jericho. Jericho is representative of the world. Now, Jericho, if you realize, Jericho is a big place. The world's a big place. The world builds walls. Jericho represents that with those walls, the things we have to face. God brought down those walls. God was very good at bringing down those walls. God brought down those walls literally through people not speaking and people marching and people shouting and horns being blown. They didn't fire a shot. They didn't climb or scale the first brick, literally from marching and shouting. So Jericho was large. The world is large. See, large battles are very significant battles. See, we seem to bring our battles to the church. We seem to bring our battles to the Lord when they're large. See, when they're large, let's just say, for instance, you've got a grandmother sick. It's a large battle. You've got a child that needs surgery. That's a large battle. We have a financial issue. That's a large battle. And we seem to bring our large battles to the platform at the foot of the cross, and we're just really going at it about the large battles. See, small battles are insignificant battles. Small battles are insignificant battles, but I'm going to back up and say not so much. Not so much. There are no insignificant battles. There are no insignificant battles. But small is always insignificant, right? Small, you can't pull that one in my house. My wife is small. We don't get by with that one. You know what? You just stand next to her and you'll see how small she really is. And then drive next to her and you'll see how much of a giant she can be. So the thing is just because they come in a small package doesn't mean they can't get things done. So small is always insignificant. No way. That's wrong. The next battle that Israel is going to face after Jericho, they go into Jericho. The very first thing they see is the world. That's the first thing we have to face. The world with its giant walls. It's just massive. They're 40 feet thick. They're 40 feet high. How are we ever going to get through this, around this, on top of this? What are we going to do? And God says, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. But now, that happened just like that. God just took care of everything, but the next thing in line, the next place in line is a little place called Ai. A-I. The letter A, the letter I. Ai. Ai is a small, insignificant place, but not so much. See, I want us to look at our lives today. I want us to look at our lives today. See, big sins are what we consider significant sins. Big sins. You know what? I killed a man and stabbed him in the neck. I went to jail. That's a big sin. You know what? I robbed a bank. That's a big sin. You know what? All these things we seem to categorize sins, big sins, little sins. Small sins seem to be insignificant. See, there are no insignificant battles. Small things can't make large and lasting impact. There again, live in my house for a little while. Live in my house for a little while. Small things can make large impacts. See, this is our mentality in the world today. I can commit small sins and it'll be okay. See, I can commit small sins, but it'll be okay. I can get by with it. I can get by with it as long as nobody knows. I can get by with it as long as it's hidden. I can get by with it as long as I'm kind of keeping it behind my doors and it not affect the greater outcome. I can do this. See, maybe I gossip 4 or 5 times a day. Maybe I have a gossip problem. You know what? So what? I didn't shoot somebody. You know, maybe I become negative. I'm just a negative person, and I just infect everybody around me. And no one's encouraged around me. Everybody's brought down around me, and I sow discord everywhere I go. I didn't stab somebody in the neck with a knife. I didn't do anything terrible. Maybe I took what belongs to the Lord. Maybe I took what belongs to the Lord. Well, what belongs to the Lord? The Bible says the tithe belongs to the Lord. See, maybe I don't need to pay my tithe. Maybe I don't need to give to the Lord. And I'm just telling, this is a personal, it has nothing to do with church. I just want you to be blessed. See, this is what I call a Joe problem. This is what I call a Joe problem. Let's look at Joshua chapter 7. Let's look at verse 1. But the people broke faith in regard to the devoted things. For Achan, he was the son of Carmi. And then see, if you'll notice these words, basically he was the grandson of Zerah. So, and he was of the tribe of Judah. So let's just go back. But the people of Israel broke faith. Achan, they didn't do anything. Achan did. Achan took some of the devoted things, and the anger of the Lord burned against the people. Okay, here's what we call a Joe problem. Okay, Israel, Joe got a problem. Joe got a problem. Joe people got a problem. So here's the thing. I call it a Joe problem. Joe took what belonged to the Lord. Joe have sinned. So we got a Joe problem. Achan took from the battle of Jericho. Achan took something that belonged to the Lord from the battle of Jericho. We'll spell this out for you so you're not left behind. Achan took a cloak, which was kind of, in my opinion, a trophy. He took a cloak, which was a trophy, and he took some silver, and he took some gold. So, God had supplied every one of their needs for 40 years. And now they go into the first battle, and this guy seems to think that I have to have something because maybe he's thinking God's not going to take care of me anymore. Maybe I'm on my own. The manna has run out at this point, and we're eating of the land, so I'm going to have to stock up, or I'm not going to have something when the time comes. So he took what belonged to the Lord. What makes us think that God can take care of us all the way to this point and He won't take care of us moving forward? So he took what belonged to the Lord. God had supplied. Jericho was first fruits. Now, this is a whole sermon series by itself. And we've done a Wednesday night sermon or lesson series on the blessed life. So if you don't know anything about the blessed life, please let us talk to you about it. Jericho was first fruits. God gets the first fruits of everything. God gets the first fruits. It belongs to Him. And Jericho is no exception to the rule. Let's look at Joshua chapter 6. Now let's look at verses 17, 18, and 19. And the city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. This is what he's saying. You know what? I'm giving you the whole land, but the city and all that is within it, the very first battle, goes to the Lord. It is set aside for the Lord. Only Rahab, the prostitute, and all who live in her house shall live because she hid the messengers whom sent her. But you, this is what Joshua says straight up, you keep yourselves from the things that are devoted to destruction. If you do, then you will, and lest when you have devoted them, you take any of the devoted things and make the camp of Israel a thing of destruction and bring trouble upon us. But all the silver and the gold and every vessel of bronze and all the iron and are holy to the Lord, they shall go into the treasury of the Lord. So this is what he says. Everything belongs to the Lord. First fruits belong to the Lord. Now, God was giving them the whole land. God's been promising them the whole land for generations. They're getting the whole land, but the first thing belongs to the Lord. So, all that was required was give me first. Give it to me first. Trust in me first, and I will give you more back than you could ever imagine. I'm giving you the whole. Achan took from that first. He took portions of that first. Now, in the grand scheme of the total amount, it was just a little bit. See, it's a little insignificant battle, and nobody's going to notice that. Nobody's going to notice if I steal or take a little bit. Achan took a small amount. He only took a little bit of silver and a little bit of gold. He didn't take a whole lot. Joshua chapter 7, let's go back to 7, look at verses 20 and 21. And Achan answered Joshua. See, this is what happens. God says, you got a problem. Joe got a problem, dude. We got a problem. And he says, you got some sin in the camp. And basically, I've walked away from you. I'm not having anything to do with you guys until you fix your problem. And so they get down, they find out who it is, and they get down to the root of the problem. And Joshua says to Achan, and Achan answered Joshua, surely or truly I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel, and this is what I did. I saw among the spoil a beautiful cloak, 200 shekels of silver, a bar of gold is about 50 shekels. Then I coveted them. I did it. I know I did. And see, they are hidden in the earth inside my tent with the silver underneath. I did it. I'm sorry I did it. So this is what he says. I did this. So I want you to go back. Israel's got a Joe problem. And I want you to go back and remember with me in chapter 1, God tells Joshua 5 times, be strong and courageous. Now, verse 6, be strong and courageous. Verse 7, be strong and courageous. Verse 9, be strong and courageous. Verse 9 again, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Verse 18, be strong and courageous. So he tells him 5 times. And you know what? When we read it over and over and over, we're like, why does he have to tell him over and over and over? Is he that dumb? No, because I'm going to tell you why I think he told him over and over and over. It's easy to kill the guy with the sword that's 20 feet away from you that's going to kill you. It's hard to kill the guy that's standing beside you that you love. It's hard to kill the thing that you know you need to separate from. It's hard to get away from the thing that is dragging you down. It's very difficult. It's easy to fight against the people you don't know. It's hard to fight and separate ourselves from the people we do know. So, this is why he tells him, I think one of the reasons he tells him is because everything that you're going to face in this conquest of the land is bigger than you could ever imagine. So, what does Israel do? They were strong and they were courageous. And let's look at chapter 7, verse 25. And Joshua said, why did you do this? Why did you do this? The Lord brings trouble on you today. I'm sorry. This is not, you did this. I'm not doing this. And all Israel stoned this dude. They stoned Achan and they burned them with fire and they stoned them with stones. So, Achan, why did you do this? Because now we got to kill you. We got to kill Joe mama and Joe daddy and Joe kids and Joe livestock. So here, we've got a Joe problem, and if we don't get rid of the Joe problem, we're not going to be able to move on. We're not going to be able to move on. See, there are no insignificant battles. So Jericho represents the world. What does Ai represent? Ai represents the flesh. It represents that carnal nature that the heart wants what it wants. It's that what we want. Those are small insignificant sins, and then there's large ones. See, they're larger than you think. All these little things that we do, all these little things that we think we're getting by with, God's not absent, or He's never quit watching, or He's never quit being a part of our lives. He sees them all. So it's not like I'm hiding them from God. See, gossip, negativity, discord, they never change the course of the ship. Now I want to tell you, let's just say you don't like the way it's going at work. I don't like the way it's going at work. So what do? You automatically start talking around in circles. So we start talking around in circles, and you know what? We get everybody around us all worked up, and we never change the course of the ship. You know what's going to happen? All we're going to do is drown the weak. These 2 or 3 people, they may not be able to make it. They may quit. They may get fired. But you didn't change the course of the ship. The ship's still going to, the company's still going to do what it's going to do. All you've done is drown the weak in the process. So we never change the course of the ship. See, I pastor a church, and we're in the people business. And believe me, when you're in the people business, you hear the complaints. And I say to myself all the time, you can't change the course of the ship, but you can sure drown the weak. I'd like to have everybody in here that was affected throughout my lifetime by negativity that was in this church. You know what? We'd have to do 12 services. because they were affected and they were drowned. Nothing was changed. The course of the ship wasn't changed, but they got drowned. See, let's go back to Joshua. Joshua sent men. He sent men. Let's see what happened. Joshua sent men in to spy out Ai. So this is what he does. He does the same thing with Jericho. Go tell me what's up with Jericho. So they come back and they're like, man, this whole big place is scared to pieces. So he says, okay, Jericho's no more. We've put it to destruction. Now, this is before that we find out anything's wrong. He says, go spy out the land. And they go spy out the land. And they come back and they give Ai a pretty good look. And they come back and they say, it's small. It's insignificant. Send a small garrison. Don't bother anybody else. We'll go up there. We'll knock this out. We'll be back by lunch. Make sure you have my ham sandwich ready. So it was kind of like that. This won't take long at all. Send about 3,000 of us up. So Joshua sends about 3,000 of them up. They go up to Ai, and you know what? It's fine. They're outnumbered, but that's a good number for the Lord. So they go up there. They lost that battle. They lost that battle, and 36 men lost their lives. 36 Israelite soldiers lost their lives. There are no insignificant battles. See, the worst enemy we have is ourselves. The worst enemy we ever in our lives will ever have is ourselves. This is the one thing that we can't get rid of. See, this is the very battle that we can't escape from. See, because you live in the same skin with you. You can't get away from you. You use the same brain as you. You think the same destructive thoughts as you. You use the same hands to do the same things, and the same character and the same charisma resides in there. And the Word says that we have an inner conflict between the spirit and man all the time. And we have the same influence. And most recorded losses of battles, most recorded losses of cities, most recorded losses of nations and individuals and even churches, they can be traced back to an inward breach. Something happened on the inside. If it hadn't have happened on the inside, they still couldn't have got to us. So Israel, they go up against Ai, and they're no match for Ai. Because somebody has stolen and they've placed a curse, so to speak, upon Israel. And Israel can't win like that. God's like, look, I didn't call you out of Egypt, spend 40 years with you in the middle of nowhere, cross a flooded river to get you to here to cheat on me. I'm not going to do that. So if you're not going to do it my way, then we're not doing it. So he's removed himself, and they're not getting anywhere. And I love the fact, just go ahead and read. Get in there and read, but I love where Joshua just goes into fit pitching. He's just, what in the world's wrong? What have I done wrong? I'm dying here. And God says, get your hind end up. I love that part. He says, get up and let's fix the problem. You got a sin problem. And you got to fix the sin problem. Sometimes we got to realize that rather than just pouring out and just, sometimes we got to sit back and listen to the Lord and say, okay, Lord, I've got a sin problem, so show me what it is so we can fix it. Show me what it is so we can fix it. So inward breaches can be, most battle losses, most every kind of loss can be traced back to an inward breach. Let me give you an example. The city of Troy. Now, whether you think the story of the city of Troy is mythology or it's fact, or it's a little bit mixed in of both, which I kind of believe it is. Troy recorded 10 years of battle attacks from Greece, so they couldn't penetrate their walls. The story goes, whether or not this is true, we don't know. They built a wooden horse, and they stuck some guys in it, and they gave it to them as a peace offering, and they left. And then they took the horse inside as a trophy, as a peace offering, and it was full of warriors, and they attacked from the inside, and Troy, it's that Trojan horse. If you want to know more about that, I think that's in chapter 8 of my book. You can get one. So anyway, Alexander the Great conquered the world by the age of 35. Now think about this guy. He's 35 years old. He's already finished conquering the world by 35. He's not even 65. He's 35 years old. He's finished. He's conquered the world by the age of 35, but he died a drunkard. He died in a drunken stupor, and he conquered the world, but he couldn't conquer Alexander. See, in a similar way, churches are destroyed from within. Churches are destroyed from within. There's 7 churches mentioned in Revelation. In those early chapters, 7 churches mentioned in the churches of Asia Minor. They're mentioned and recorded in the book of Revelation. They all received warnings. Now I want you to listen to this with me. They all received warnings from the Lord, but not one of those warnings was of an outside enemy. See what I'm saying? Not one of those was an outside enemy. They were all an inside attack. They were all, we've got a Joe problem. We've got a flesh problem. They were all on the inside. It's things that we've got to take a look at ourselves. We got to step back, put on the Jesus glasses, and realize that I don't look as good as I think I look. I have some things there that I can see in me that I didn't see in me before I put the Jesus glasses on. See, I want to tell you this, and please remember this too. The only battle that Joshua ever lost during the conquest was a small place called Ai. It's the only battle that was ever lost. I mean, of all the battles, of all that, we're going to look at 2 more. We've got 2 more coming up. Next week and the week after. Jericho, walls as thick as 40 feet. High as 40 feet. You know what? There's no way that we can make this work, but it happened. God made it work. God did it. And the only battle that they lost in this entire conquest was a little bitty place called Ai. Let's notice something in Joshua chapter 8, verse 1. Notice something with me. And the Lord said to Joshua, do not fear. See, man, he didn't just say it in chapter 1. He says it a lot. Do not fear and do not be dismayed. Take all of the fighting men with you and arise. Now, in other words, he's telling him again, Joshua, get up. Joshua, get up. I've called you to conquer. I've called you to be a conqueror. Get up. Get up. Go to Ai. See, I have given into your hand the king of Ai and his people, and I've given to you his city, and I've given to you his land. Now I want you to notice something with me. Notice what he says. Take all the fighting men. How do we win the battle against the flesh? How do we win this battle against the flesh, the carnal nature, the flesh man that wants what he wants? How do we win this battle? I think it's every bit spelled out for us in chapter 1, verse 1 of chapter 8. I want you to notice something with me. Notice he says, take all. Take all of the fighting men. Now, I want to say something again. There's a whole lot that goes on right here in this little bitty battle. There are no insignificant battles. This is what he does. This is the only time that I know when God sent more of his soldiers to attack less of the enemy. Now, think about this. He took Gideon's army down to 1% of what they started with, from 32,000 to 300. And they said their tents were in the valley as thick as, you couldn't even see the ground. They were so thick. And he made them sound like 100 times, 1,000 times more than what they were. And you know what? This is the only time when I can find that God sends more of his soldiers to do battle with less of the enemy's soldiers. That's how much of a battle the flesh is. We can go to battle against the world all day long. You know what? You said, what about my mama? Oh, I'll mash your mouth. Think about that. Think about that. You said, okay, somebody comes at us, you'll mash their mouth. But if somebody comes around beside you and your wife's yelling at you and, hurts your feelings, all this stuff, it's just a little bit different when that flesh goes, well, she don't even love me anymore. She don't appreciate me. He just mean. My kids hate me. And I'm not appreciated, I'm not wanted. That thing here gets to infecting everything. We have to live with it. See, when it comes to dealing with the flesh, just don't take any chances. Don't take any chances. Put it all under this Joshua chapter 8, verse 1. Let's look at it one more time, and I want you to notice something with me. He says, I have given into your hand king, people, city, land. I have given into your hand, I've given to you the king, the people, the city, the land. Now, I want you to notice something with me. He doesn't just say, I've given into your hand some city, some people, or some land. He says, I've given to you the king into your hand. I've given you authority over the king, and over the king, everything that's under the king. And you notice what he says, his people. I've given you not only the king, but I've given you his people, his city, and his land. Now, not just some land, because it's kind of like that whole Lazarus come forth thing. God's making sure he points out who we're talking about here. You know, I'm giving you the king of Ai, I'm giving you his people, and I'm giving you his city, and I'm giving you his land. I'm giving you authority over these. Now, I want to break this down for you. I'm giving you authority today through the Holy Spirit over the king, that part of us that makes decisions. See, the king is the one that makes decisions. I'm giving you authority. This is how we deal with the flesh, this carnal nature. I'm giving you authority over your decision making. I'm giving you authority over your mind. I'm giving you authority over your conscience. I'm giving you authority because when you say don't open that magazine, don't click on that website, I don't care how appealing it looks, that's not your wife. Quit clicking on it. You know what? We have authority over that. There's nothing making you click on that. There's nothing making... You know what? God says, I'm giving you authority through the Holy Spirit to say, no, I'm not clicking anymore. I quit clicking. If you have to, take it outside like the guy did on that whatever movie it was, and he busted with a baseball bat. I'm not going to do it. He says, not only am I giving you authority over the king, which is your mind, I'm giving you authority over everything he has authority over. I'm giving you authority over everything that the mind controls, including the people, which the people that's the workforce. That's what we set our hands to do. That's what we're doing. Hello, and thank you for tuning in today. We want you to know that we are Christpoint Church. And we're located in 2 locations. Our main campus, our central campus is at Sparta on the square. And our second campus is in Smithville at 614 Murphy Street. And we're located behind Bumpers and behind Ace Hardware. And we look forward to seeing you. I thank you again for tuning in with us. I thank you so much for being on board with us. And we want to invite you personally to come out and pay us a visit, because we want to love you at the door. We want to treat you like family. We're real people living real lives, serving a real God, and we want to tell each and every one of you, welcome home to Christpoint Church.